Mm.
So, welcome to Women Who Fights podcast. We empower female fighters to take full agency over their training. Our goal is to celebrate and inspire others with the incredible action women and allies are taking to level the playing field. We talk to experts, uncover prejudice, and champion what's driving our progress.
Today, we're joined by April Davies, who's the creator of the Vagina Blog. She's also a doula, photographer, birthing assistant to a midwife, and a top blogger. Through the Vagina Blog, April is creating a community for women at the core of which is body positivity and the breaking of taboos around the female form.
April brings focus to sex, periods, and self-love, covering topics including menstruation, incontinence, sex around pregnancy, childbirth, and loads more. And we're so happy to have her here today.
I'm so excited to be here, you guys.
Is there anything we've missed?
Oh my goodness. No, I don't think so.
You've done so much. You've got so many different strands of knowledge and experience. It's so amazing. Can you tell us, let's start with about the Vagina Blog. Can you explain to our audience what it is and why you started it?
So the Vagina Blog, I wanted to start like a female body health platform because just my background, I started in emergency medicine. I went on to work for a nurse midwife as a birth assistant. And then I also started working as a doula. I was also a birth photographer. And, once you start hanging with that crowd, you start learning a lot more about your period, about birth control, about postpartum, about, and I was going through all those things myself as well. And after some health concerns with my own family, I had to retire from like birth work. And I had all this information and this education. And I was like, what do I even do? What do I even do with all this? And so the Vagina Blog was born. I just wanted to be able to share everything that I'd learned with the masses. So that's where it came from.
Wow.
That's amazing. And I also love that it's called the Vagina Blog.
Boom,
it's like you didn't dance.
Yeah.
You didn't dance around anything. You just no.
Yeah.
It's the Vagina Blog.
That's what it is, So, and I've had people be like, you really should be the vulva blog. And I'm like, okay, it's fine.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. So not all women are comfortable talking about their vaginas and the vagina issues that they have openly. Why do you think that is? I want to know your opinion. And what do you think should happen? I mean, most people don't even know the difference between the vagina and the vulva. How do we normalize this conversation?
I think it's education. We need to continue to reform our sex education, but more importantly, we really need to be encouraging parents to start talking about this in the home. It needs to be a comfortable topic before they're even learning about it in school. School needs to be more comprehensive and do a better job of educating around it. It frustrates me because I look back at my education, especially in high school, and there's so much that I learned in high school that I have no use for, and so many things I wish I would have learned. And having a better understanding of the human anatomy and just basics would have been so incredibly helpful. And so it really frustrates me sometimes that we don't do a good job of that here, especially here in the United States. I feel like you guys even do a better job of that than we do.
Well, not that good. Not that good.
I mean, like, I remember, like, at school, it was, here's a banana, here's a condom, let's pop it on, and you'd be like 14 or like 13, and either it was just like, what is going on, or you just absolutely took the piss. Yeah. And like, if there were boys in the class, they were just creasing, and it was just. And then I remember in year 6 being shown a tampon, and I was a very late developer, so I was also just like, what on earth is that? And don't you dare I don't want to put that anywhere near me, like, get it away. And she was like, the string. I was like, what happens if the string falls off though? Because you've got to pull it out. She was like, the string won't pull off. I then proceeded to spend the whole time trying to pull the string off. Because I was like, there's no way I'm ever putting something up me. I cannot then get back out. It freaked me out because I did pull it off.
guys,
I love that was your thing that you obsessed over. Like, I'm gonna yank on this string until it comes off. I got to find out what the tension rating is for this sucker.
test.
You guys,
Literally,
I'm living in a state where even that, like, they teach menstruation in 5th grade, and then that's it. There's no mention. There's no
And
sex ed in the state of Utah. It doesn't.
and
That doesn't
wow.
even. This doesn't need to be
the
thought of.
girls that
There isn't. It doesn't exist.
the girls that
Wow.
have to listen to all of these, they're like, no, miss, I don't wanna talk about it. I was teaching I was explaining that part with the condom, and they had given us those huge models, those huge blue models for penises, and I was thinking, who on earth has this size of it? I mean, 60,
And where am I
15,
supposed
16
to
year
put
old.
that?
And I went in the class and I was like, guys, this is a very bad model. This is too big for, like, because I thought poor kids are gonna have so many issues. They're gonna think, what is going wrong with mine? So I was like, this is just
Yeah.
gone. And I had the couple of boys saying, no, miss, this is very small. I was like, mate, mate. I had another boy. He thought that tampons were for white girls. I was like, where did you come from? Which planet?
Wide girls.
Yeah, tampons are
What's
for,
wide girls?
as in they're white, they're for white. I don't know, they camouflage. I don't
Oh,
know what he was thinking.
white girls.
Yeah, shocking.
But it's stuff like this. Like, we need to correct this, and kids need to be comfortable enough with their parents that they can be like, I don't understand the tampon thing, and you can be like, oh, let me tell you about it. And it's like you're talking about a new pair of boots that you got and why they don't fit, or why they like, it should just be that comfortable. And that's really the environment that I've tried to create in my own home with my kids. And it has been so fascinating because, like, my 11-year-old was like, I don't want to put a cup inside my vagina. I don't want to do that. And I was like, oh, well, then you don't have to. It'll be fine. You can just wear period underwear. And she's like, but I never want to. And I was like, that's fine. But I love that she can come talk to me about it. And I'm able to explain, like, oh, well, it folds up and there is more than enough room in there. You'd be surprised. But if you don't want to, not something you have to do. Instead of
Yeah.
her just being terrified or, not having any idea, it was just a normal conversation that we had, like doing laundry one day.
That's so lovely, and I think that will carry her for so long, because it's so much. It's about that. There's no shaming.
Mm-hmm.
It's all positive. It's also
Yeah.
open, so you never feel like, if you're in pain or you've leaked,
Mm-hmm.
it's a safe environment. Why do you think that? I mean, it seems like at schools they're not teaching it right, and that's so therefore
Mm-hmm.
at home we need to do it more. But where has that gotten lost? Where is that stopped being something that was sort of passed down in the home?
I don't know. It's I look back at history, and obviously I definitely think, we always joke that the United States of America was settled by Puritans. And so it makes sense that that's just carried on. But and as the longer I've been the Vagina Blog, the more I've talked to people across countries, across states, everywhere else. I do think religious upbringing definitely has to do with it. It's set up for this awkwardness because, in Christianity, people are very conservative about these types of things. What frustrates me is you can be conservative. You can teach your children even to consider abstinence. You don't have to not be sex positive and teach abstinence. You can actually be very sex positive and still teach kids, like, you don't have to have sex with people. So it frustrates me that, like, educating our children somehow would lead them to have sex. That's what I don't understand. And that seems to be the fear of many parents, is like, well, if I tell them all the things and make it comfortable, they're going to go out and get knocked up tomorrow. I don't, like, I love, there's a joke that circulated on the internet. My kids learned about World War II and went out and invaded Belgium the next day. No, they don't. That's
No.
not how it works. We educate them,
mean,
we empower them.
I mean, it sort of feels like it's one of those things like with jiu-jitsu. So we learn, like, we fight, and actually it made me much more aware of the dangers of fighting, because you
Yes.
go, oh, and it's sort of the same thing in terms of like, oh, that's how you get pregnant. Oh,
Yeah.
this is how I can avoid getting pregnant.
And also,
And
they're gonna do it. They're gonna do it at
That's
some
the
point.
reality. If it's
They're gonna
something they
Google.
want to do, they're going to do it. I
Yeah,
don't know why. You can sit down and tell your kids all day long all the reasons why
exactly.
not having sex would be a good option or the dangers of it and all these other types of things. When it comes down to it, at the end of the day, this is just still a decision that they're going to make. I want my kids making the decision for themselves. I don't want them getting talked into it because the person they're with is the only person that will talk to them about their sex life.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's a terrifying thing. Sending your teenage daughters out with teenage boys and having them be their comforting, their comfort when it comes to talking about sex. I'm like, that's not who you want. Your
no,
kids to feel like they can talk to. You want them to feel like they can talk to you about it, and you can say, "Hey, here's why. This is why I would be worried. This is what I would watch out for. This is, like." And
yeah,
it's never. I think you can be like, look, these are really grown up decisions. If you're going to be sexually active, you need to be worried about HPV. We need to talk about the HPV vaccination. We need to talk about what you're going to do not so you don't get pregnant. Like, and if you've set up a relationship where your kids can't talk to those things about with you, talk about those things with
mm.
you, then
It,
it's a mess.
I feel like it also closes the conversation to problems that you have. So
Oh
like
yeah,
if you have, either it's abuse, or it could be,
yeah,
a problem like, vaginismus or something where there's an issue going on, or anything, STD. As soon as
yeah.
that conversation is open about sex and periods in the first place, you can actually go and say, Mum, I had a really bad time, and then you can find out what is okay
Mm.
and
Yes.
what's not okay.
Well, and
April.
something that I've learned about and also talked about before is if you teach your children the proper language for their anatomy and their proper parts and pieces, that's one of the steps that people that molest children as they're grooming them, they tend to see if they're comfortable using those words, if they know what their body parts are called, because that means
Mm,
that there's an adult in their life that's taught them and has said those things to them and has made it them comfortable saying them. And so they're less likely to molest them because they know that the kid can go in and say, this is what happened to me. Because if you don't have the
Mm.
words to describe what happened to you, you're much easier to molest, right? So you're protecting
yeah,
your children if you explain these things. And same, even as they become teenagers and young adults, you want your child to be able to stand up for herself at the doctor. You want her to be able to stand up for herself in situations where she doesn't like what's being done to her. And you want her to be able to come to you or to other trusted people in her life and say, this happened and it wasn't okay. And she's not going to have that
mm,
confidence, or he's not going to have that confidence if saying penis has been a bad word in your house.
Mm.
yeah.
You know?
You
That's really, yeah.
you spoke
Go on,
about
Marina.
two things. So you spoke about be like knowing the names of everything, and you spoke about your daughter talking to you about the menstrual cup and thinking how it's going to fit. Now I have friends that they always thought, oh, it can get lost, and you're like, from
Hmm.
where? Do you not
Where?
know the anatomy? So it
They don't.
seems that we are very like, it's this is my body and that's a part down there that we're not talking about,
Hmm.
and it's so foreign. How do we change this?
We have to teach the next generation, and we have to take it upon ourselves to get educated as well. I'm looking at here in the United States, our maternal mortality rates are going up. So more people are dying in childbirth.
What?
And yeah, it's
How?
safer to have a baby in Cuba than the United States of America.
How is that?
Yeah,
Is
that's a
is this
great question.
this is natural birth? Is this C-section, or is it
This
like,
is all birth. This is all
okay?
birth. We're just seeing our maternal mortality rates go up. Worse than so it's more dangerous to have a baby in the United States now than when our parents were having kids.
Right.
Yeah, guys,
Why?
it's bad. Intervention. Doctors are taking advantage of people. They're intervening so much more than they should in the natural processes of childbirth. And people are not standing up for themselves. They're not consenting to the care that they're receiving. It is a disaster. We have the most expensive healthcare system in the world, and we're killing more people in childbirth than ever before. Well, I shouldn't say ever before, but
Is this
it's
to speed?
getting worse, not better.
Right.
Is this to speed
It's
up the
embarrassing.
process?
Yeah,
Is
they're
that
interfering, and people are and the problem is when you don't have a good sexual education system, you don't have the language to advocate for yourself. You don't realize that you should be consenting to everything in your care, which is why we have to teach our kids. Because once again, if we teach them everything and to be confident in their own bodies and their own anatomies, and then when they go into the doctor at 18 and the doctor goes, yeah, I'm just going to put you on this birth control. And they're like, no, I don't want to. They're like, right now, I can't tell you how many messages I get from people who are like, I got bullied into being on birth control again because my doctor told me I was being a bad girl and irresponsible if I get off of it. And I don't want to fight with him, but I also don't want to be on this anymore. That's insanity to
wow?
me. I'm like,
And
it's your body. Say no, walk away. Like, but people are like, but it's a doctor.
It
you do
seems
understand. Yeah, exactly. It's a doc. You do understand that we think, oh, he's a doctor, he knows more, so I'm gonna follow what he says.
Hmm.
it seems like there's a massive disconnection to our bodies though, because I think
Yep.
once you once you trust your body and you realize that it's actually designed for birth,
And to
and also
cycle, and yes.
yeah, yeah,
And
it's
it's
all
not that
designed
birth
for it.
control is bad, it's just that you should be informed and consenting to your care. But if
Mm.
we teach because if you went into the doctor and they said we're just gonna have to cut off your arm, anybody would be like, no, I'm getting a second opinion. Like you're not cutting off my arm because they're comfortable talking about their arm. They have the language to describe their arm. There's nothing awkward about arms, it's just your
Mm.
arm. We need to make all of our private parts just as open of a conversation and make our kids just as confident discussing them. So, because in my mind, if the birth control conversations start to be more direct like this, then consent in childbirth is going to change too. Because that's an easy
I
conversation in a doctor's office when you start to
mm,
stand up for yourself, and it gets easier to stand up for yourself when you're in a situation in a childbirth. And so my hope is with what I'm doing with the Vagina Blog, with having these discussions, that I'm helping empower people to own their bodies, to consent to their care, to
mm.
do their actual own research about what they're doing to their bodies, and to say no. And then when they say no and it doesn't happen, to press charges or to fire their doctor or to stop hiring 80-year-old men.
Wow. And what's the experience? How do the people you're teaching, how do they respond? Are you getting like good, yeah, you're getting good responses?
Probably the most disturbing thing I've experienced. A lot of people, like I just barely talked about birth control a couple days ago on Instagram, and I advocated and said, look, if you want to get off of contraceptive drugs, you don't have to answer to anybody but yourself. So don't go into your doctor's office and have them tell you you're being irresponsible or a bad girl and buy into that crap. If you want to get off, get off. And if you want to stay on, stay on. Make good decisions for yourself.
Mm.
Know what you're signing up for, and know that, and like be confident in your own ability to know your body, right? And so with that discussion, every
Mm.
time I ever talk about birth control and say a word about getting off of it, I always have healthcare providers message me and tell me that I'm being irresponsible and that I should not be telling people that they can get off of birth
Really?
control. And my response is always like, I don't understand. Like, what do you think's going to happen? You think people are going to stop taking birth control and going out and get pregnant the next day? No. You don't have to take contraceptive drugs to avoid pregnancy. And really with
Yeah.
a lot of
And
the
they
health
mess up
disorders
everything.
that they help manage, some of them are better managed when
Yeah.
everything's not being suppressed. Because the unfortunate truth of synthetic hormones, they're not real hormones. They they prevent you from getting pregnant because they're turning all of your normal hormones off. Like, it's not. We act like this is like a multivitamin, and it's not. It is having a major effect on your body. And sometimes that is the best choice to make. There's a lot of maintenance that goes into not being on birth control and being sexually active. I myself had Marina IUDs before my husband got a vasectomy. I could never look at someone and be like, how could you? Because sometimes your life is in a place where, like, that's just what you need to do. And that's okay. But you need to know that for yourself. You need to have made that decision. Because I've been in that doctor's office. I've been pressured by doctors to get on birth control. I've been pressured to switch or to take this or that. I've walked away crying after getting the shot because I did not want it, but I wasn't provided with any other options. And it was like, cool. So now I have this stuff in my body. I don't really understand what just happened to me, and I don't like it. But what other option did I have?
Was that the injection?
Yeah, and I don't want anyone else to ever be in that position. Like, and it frustrated me too because after I was on the injection for a year. I went in and I was like, I'm starving, I'm gaining weight, I don't feel good, I'm having all these problems. And they said, well, you'd be fatter if you were pregnant. I was like, that's not helpful.
That's not an argument.
Like, what? Those are not my two options in my life, to either be on this shot or be pregnant. There's actually many other options in this world for me right now. And like, but it sets up distrust with the medical system. And so I tell people, find a good doctor that you trust. Like I am obnoxious. My poor sweet family doctor has to put up with me. But you know what? I trust him completely with my kids. And if he did say, hey, we're going to do this, I would trust him because I built a relationship with him. I interviewed him. I, asked about these things. And we don't do that enough.
I think it's crazy because I don't know about in the US, but here, doctors, when you go and see your GP, a lot of the problem is that they've got 5 minutes to see you. You go in with a problem, whether it's you've got bad skin when you're a teenager and then, they're like, oh, here's the pill, or you've got really painful periods, or, anything, or, oh, I'm thinking of having sex for the first time soon. Oh, here's the pill. Like, they just, and I remember arguing with them and trying to learn about it. And my doctor was great, but she was just like, this is something that will just sort you out. And I don't have time to teach you. So all of the onus goes on you. If you don't know where to look for answers as well, then you just are a bit stuck, and none of your mates know, because you're all figuring it out together, and you're all like, oh, I'm on the pill too. Oh, we're so grown up, we're all on the pill.
Especially when you're 20. No one really, and that's, once again, this comes back to, as parents, we have to do a better job, and we need better sex ed. We just need better sex ed. Kids need to know about this stuff more, because we can say all day that they're not dealing with it, but they're dealing with this. We were dealing with it. Like, I was dealing with this when I was a kid. It has not changed. It's not going to. It's not going to. And so it frustrates me greatly that there isn't a good resource for this. It's a weird thing too, because sometimes people come to me with the most difficult, hard questions, and I'm just looking at them. I always try to help as much as I can, but also an Instagram influencer maybe should not be your sole source of information about your sexual education. And here we are. Like, that's crazy that this is my job on Instagram.
But you've opened though a discussion that is not easily there. So you're also, like the god. It's like, ooh, someone can answer my question.
I'm realizing in a very humble way, like, you should not be listening to an Instagram influencer.
But I think that's the thing. I mean, maybe that's a testament to where our knowledge base is though now. Like, maybe we need, we do, there are platforms out there which are sort of, when we try and like educate, that's a big part of what we try and do, and share other people's wisdom.
Oh yeah.
But there are more platforms, but it is, most people get their information now from on online platforms, and like we found.
Well, thank goodness for your podcast. Thank goodness for platforms where we can share.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, we spoke to like a woman, a naturopath, and it was the only one that we could find who specialized in vaginas. She was in Australia, and she was fantastic. And we had so many questions for her, and we were just bubbling over with them. I was asking questions that I wanted to ask someone since I was like 15, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And she wasn't even in the UK. She wasn't even local. We had to go literally the other side of the world
Australia.
to find.
Guys, really, we just all need to go to Australia. I think that's what I've come to as well. So
Let's pack our bags.
We all need to go to the Gold Coast, on the beach, and we'll be fine. We'll be fine. I mean, they're dealing with COVID fairly well. They just
Pretty well.
shut their borders, so that's all right. Yeah, it is nuts to me that one of my things though, because we need to educate at home, but so many parents, there's still not much conversation there either. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of women, if they've never been taught it, they still don't necessarily know. And there's a lot of sort of like, what's like, you know, men, like, I don't know, but like parents not actually communicating to each other about what's going on sexually for either of them. And maybe that also definitely would create problems within that relationship, because I feel like you've got to be open. I'm incredibly open.
Yeah. That has to do with the culture, though. So many cultures are very, they do not talk about these things. I tried talking about vaginas in the office, guys, and it was like disastrous. Disastrous. There were the ladies who were like, Marina, what are you, you can't talk about that in front of men. Like, you can't. They're thinking, wow.
I was talking to someone about a fungal infection that they had on their skin, and they were like, I can't believe you can take it as a pill. And I was like, what about thrush? That's how you fix thrush. And he was like, what's thrush? I was like, what do you mean what's thrush?
Yeast infection.
It's a fungal infection.
Yep.
You know. I sort of like, I'm quite brazen with it, because I'm like, everyone has to know.
That's how I am. I mean, that's really why I've built what I've built, and it is so rewarding because I do get so many messages from people saying my relationship is completely different since following you. I'm open with my partner. I'm open with my kids. We're having these discussions. We're doing the work, because it's work. I encourage people too. I'm like, set out 1 year to learn everything about sex and your body. Set out to do it. Set out to make goals with your partner, if you're with a partner, to talk about it more. I always encourage people to. I think one of my frustrations that I see with a lot of people is they wait. They don't talk about their sex life until it's like 11 o'clock at night and someone has an erection, and that's not a good time to talk about your sex life. You really need to be having those discussions in the middle of the day with your clothes on, at lunch, in public, so you can't have sex while you're talking about it. Like, it's really important to do that. And it's awkward sometimes. It is a hard thing. Like, I have never been closer to another human than I am to my husband, and we have still had some very awkward conversations that are really uncomfortable about sex, and still have them sometimes, where it's like, are needs being met? Mine are not, or I'd like this to change, or this is painful, or this is hard, or, and that changes as you go throughout your relationship. My libido and our lives were very different when I got married at 20 than they are right now at almost 35, 15 years into a relationship. Like, we're completely different critters, and you talk about it. You talk about it and you have fun with it. You go in curious. Like, it's funny. I was actually on a podcast yesterday, and my friends had just had a baby not too long ago, and Bob was like, I had no idea that breast milk tastes good and that it would spray all over the place when I had sex with my wife while she was breastfeeding. Didn't know this. Why didn't you guys tell me? But I'm like, this is the conversation. This is the progression that happens in a relationship that we aren't talking enough about. What does pregnancy sex look like? What does postpartum sex look like? What does sex without penetration look like? What are other things we're doing other than intercourse? Because maybe we are trying to prevent pregnancy. Maybe we can't have intercourse right now. Maybe, like, there's so many things that happen as relationships progress. Even if you never have kids, things happen. You might move, you might have stress, someone might die and causing, a depression for a year or, and so you have to ride that wagon and you have to be willing to talk about it with the person you're with, or else it's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, what you've touched on so many amazing things because I
Yeah.
think most people let's try and work our way.
Go back,
Um,
rewind.
when you're talking about like sex and like having open conversation with it, and that there are different ways to have sex and to go into it with a curious and explorative mindset. I mean, for a lot of people, sex is just penetration.
Mm-hmm.
For a woman, maybe not with an orgasm because they've never managed to explore it, or maybe they're not comfortable doing that in that situation. I don't know. That is kind of it. That is actually, and that actually is so far from what you're talking about, where there's so many options and there's so many like personalized experiences where
Oh yeah.
what works for you will not work for someone else. Like
Yep.
everything is so individual, and I think that is such a like positive message, because I think often people, there's shame if something turns you on that you're not sure about, or if that doesn't turn you on and you kind of feel like it's supposed to, or that doesn't work for you. And then there's like, so many people fake it. There's so many women. So
I know.
you know,
Never fake
and
orgasms, guys. Never,
and
never.
I feel
Don't
like
do it.
if you fake an orgasm, the worst thing is if you're lying not only to yourself but you're also lying to your partner. And if they love you,
Yeah.
isn't that
About
like
the most intimate thing. I would be horrified to find out that my husband was faking orgasms. It would break me.
hmm,
It's
yeah.
just not. It's just you just
I,
shouldn't do it.
but it's so like it's this fear of not being enough
It is,
or
and
something.
I think we've made it uncomfortable too to look at your partner and be like, "Hey, guess what? It's just not going to work out for me today." And that's okay. It's not because you're doing a bad job. My head's somewhere else. So let's have fun. And like, I probably won't get there. That's okay. It
Mm.
frustrates me that like that can't be the conversation because I've had people like, well, I just kind of want to get it over with. And I'm like, okay, so tell them you're done. There doesn't have to be heavy breathing and screaming for everyone to think you're done. You can just be like, I'm done.
I'm good now.
I'm good now. This was fun. And
Yeah.
like on top of it too, we don't talk because I'm a very lucky individual. I feel like orgasming has always been something fairly easy for me and very fulfilling. And so, but there has been times where I'm like, my head is somewhere else. This is not going to work out for me right now. I would still love to have sex with you. Like I have no problem having intercourse with you right now. I don't know if I'm mentally going to be able to get in this game. And sometimes my husband's like, then I really don't want to. And sometimes he's like, okay.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, we can work through that. That's fine.
Yeah.
And so, but why can't we say that? Why can't we just tell that truth, and have that conversation? We've made it so hard or so awkward or uncomfortable, and it doesn't need to be. When your husband says, hey, do you want me to make you a sandwich? And you go, no, I'm good.
Yeah. I think
It
it's
doesn't
our
mean
ego
anything about
tied
him.
up.
It doesn't mean anything about
Yeah.
you. And I feel like so much of my education around this has come from the LGBTQ community. They are so open as they're going into new partnerships, talking to them. What do you like? Because it isn't this assumed like penis and vagina for them.
Yeah.
There's so much to learn
It's
from
just
that entire community because they have to have an open conversation right off the bat typically about what sex is going to look like. And I think we need to adopt more of that, those of us that are in heterosexual relationships.
Yeah. There's I I was talking to someone about the app, is it Field or something? And it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
you're very you can really specify
Mhm.
what you identify as like sexually, and what you want and what you like. And so when you meet someone, I'm not sure if it is just for sex, I can't remember, but you can really specify, and it's so open. So you go on
Yeah.
a date with someone, or you don't, maybe it's just sex, I don't know.
Yeah.
And you just it's just like it's as easy as, like, as you say, like making a sandwich. It's literally like we know exactly what each other
Is
like
into.
likes. There's no
Yeah.
illusions here, and
Yeah.
that that's so right. Like that kind of openness, you have to be open. Whereas I guess
You
so.
do. It's just going to lead to sadness if you're not. And like I said, especially if you do end up in a long-term relationship with a partner, my life has changed over and over and over again, and it's changed our sex life over and over again. Pregnancy sex is completely different than not pregnant sex. Same with postpartum, same with everything after. My body's not the same. Like, and his body's not the same either. He's 38, Things change. And on top of it too, after you've had sex with the same person for 15 years, you're like, maybe we should buy a butt plug. I don't know. What if we tried this?
Yeah,
Have fun with
How
it.
does
Get
how
curious.
bring on the toys.
you've mentioned it before, but how does the vagina change after pregnancy? Is it
You know what? So something I love to bring up is before having kids, vaginal orgasms were not something that I could really do. And since having them, I've been able to. And so we talk so much about all the damage and the things that get broken and rearranged and everything else, but it's not always bad. So sometimes it's hard and it's debilitating, but there's so many things that you can heal from. And I don't know. And I think some of it too is just sexual maturity. There are things that, and same with like my nipples became so much more sensitive. Nipple orgasms are more of a attainable for me now. And so like
Wait, hang
what?
on. Wait, hang on.
What?
Nipple orgasms. You might have to open our minds a bit
Go
to
on
that
again.
one.
guys,
Maybe
it's
the
the best.
non-penetration one.
What?
We need to talk about that. What was?
And some of it too, some of it's just sexual maturity. There is some joy in like aging, getting to know your body, not caring so much about what it looks like when you're having sex. Getting into a relationship with someone who's seen a baby come out of you, you care less. Everything's not shaped perfectly. you I'm not self-conscious having sex at all anymore, guys, because my husband has literally seen it all come out of me. Like it's all out there. It's been out there. Like it will continue to be. There is so much joy in getting to this point in a relationship where we just know each other's bodies so well, too well. So even having all of that taken away, I don't have to worry about any of that anymore. It's just gone. It is beautiful. I can't
This is
fathom dating again because the thought of having to relearn all this, I'm like, oh, that sounds hard.
this is the only time I hear that after pregnancy, the good things coming. I was
The
ready to
good
hear
things
something
come.
like, "Oh my God, you're not going to be feeling it. It's going to
hmm
be in, and you're going to be like, what is it in? Have you gone in yet?"
Okay, so guys, your vagina was made to have babies. The vagina is made to have babies. Penises don't shrivel over time because of intercourse. Why do we think the vaginas stretch out over time?
That's fair. Imagine if they did.
What about the tear? What about the tear?
I've torn. So, and I've very luckily, I've had such minimal tearing. With my third, I had a good skin split right up past my clit.
Ouch.
And that was not my favorite. It made, so clitoral stimulation was pretty much off the table for like 6 months. And so this is why I say like, this is what sends you into exploration mode. Like, what else can
Catch
we do?
anything. There you go.
My
Yeah.
partner's not currently available, so but guys, CBD lube. Like I could preach that gospel all day. I used CBD. As soon as I started using it, I saw immediate improvement in like the inflammation and everything healing. But it took a minute. Normal tearing, like right along the perineum and stuff, so much of that heals so quickly because it's all mucous membrane. We're made to give
Mm,
birth. We're made to heal from birth, and we're made to continue to enjoy good sex afterwards.
well, yeah. For
CB,
more
CB,
babies.
what do you mean? Were you applying CBD, or were you taking it orally?
Applying it. Yeah,
Applying.
no, I
Mhm.
found a lubricant, like a one specifically like for intercourse, and so I just applied that like almost like massaging the area. It's hard to describe. It wasn't an open wound, like a tear. It was like
Mm.
my skin had split, almost like a stretch mark, but very, very tender. And it's so funny because I went in to see my midwife and I was like, something's wrong up there. And she like spread everything out and like poked at it and was like, that? I was like, yes, that. Take a picture of it. What is it? So, I have a picture of it and it's funny because
I need
it
to
looks
get around.
like a stretch mark, but it's not like a fully open wound. And it's all healed now and gone.
Wow.
So
6
Yeah.
months.
That sounds. I
Yeah.
think that's one of my fears of pregnancy is like splitting.
Yeah.
I don't
it
know. You get stuff
happens.
in your head and you're.
You heal.
What about the
It's impossible, but you really do.
what about the incontinency?
Continence.
Incontinence.
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 Sorry, continence.
I have been so lucky, and this is such a problem for many. And you guys actually do a better job over there in the UK of monitoring this. We don't do a great job over here. Pelvic floor, in fact, France, pelvic floor physical therapy after delivery is like pretty much standard care in France, and Germany does a lot more of it. You guys do a lot more of it there in the UK. You really have to seek it out here in the United States, which is really frustrating. I'm very lucky. I genetically and also have worked on, I have a fantastic pelvic floor that's very strong. It's funny because I've been really lazy about it the last year or two, and I'm starting to lose that strength. And I'm like, oh, okay, the sneezing thing's real. I need to get back. I'm doing a buff muff challenge right now because I need to get my vagina back in shape.
Wait, what?
The sneezing thing's real. I love it.
So I'm currently working on my pelvic floor because I definitely have felt like it's gotten like weaker in the last couple of years since I stopped like doing exercises to do. Like I haven't been doing as much abdominal work as
Like
I used to. I'm out of shape basically is what we're getting to, guys. And so being
Don't
out
worry,
of
it's
shape,
a
not doing
pandemic.
ab workouts and not doing that, it has affected the strength of my pelvic floor.
Well, abdominal work helps the pelvic floor.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that whole pelvic bowl, all of that's all intertwined. So if you're doing any lower abdominal work, you should be building a strong pelvic floor along with it. And there's specific exercises you can do that are just internal vaginal pelvic floor type stuff, but even working on just your lower back and your abdominals, lower abdominals specifically, that's going to help build a strong pelvic floor.
send
That's really
this over
interesting.
after this. We need that.
That's so interesting because I thought you had to sit there and like suck
Kegel.
in Kegel. That's what I thought was, but that was my extent of my knowledge.
Well, and a lot of, as you get into like Pilates type work, right? Pilates will dive into pelvic floor work where you're engaging that. Yoga, any sort of Kundalini yoga typically engages those same Kegel type muscles. And so it depends on the workouts that you're doing, but I've definitely just haven't been doing the abdominal work that I used to do, or a lot of the working out I used to do. And so
Shanti,
I'm
you're
seeing
good.
floor.
Shanti, if it's
It's
yoga, you're good. You're good, mate.
Oh yeah, I was just thinking like my mum does like a lot of yoga, and she's menopausal, and it's like her lifeline.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely her lifeline, and it seems stuff like yoga and Pilates is amazing for women, like great for men, but it seems to fix certain things.
Yes. I think
So,
yoga, for some reason too, I think beyond being physically necessary, mentally, we need it so badly.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned that you do meditation. Do you do anything specific, like in terms of yoga, or is it just general?
I do both. I really enjoy guided meditation. I love having someone kind of walk me through things that will help change my mindset. I just have a subscription to Gaia right now, and I've gone to different classes and things like that throughout the years, on and off. But in my life, things are so much easier when that's something I'm doing regularly.
I mean, this might be an obvious question. The answer might be obvious to this one, but the impact of all of this body positivity that we've been talking about in terms of getting to know your body on your mental health is massive. Like what, like, can we just talk a little bit about like how, because I mean we've got a lot of there's much more body positivity than there was before, in terms of you see women of all shapes and sizes rather than just the sticks.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit, you see that a little bit more than you used to, and more normal sized women around. How much a part of like getting to know your vaginas and stuff do you think is a part of that transformation?
I think it's huge. Because if you're confident in yourself and in your body, you are going to expect orgasms. You are going to enjoy yourself in the bedroom when you're not obsessing about each angle of every position that you're in and maybe what that would look like. Or, I talk to people who get really distracted, like, oh my gosh, do my abs look really good right now? Like while they're having sex. And I'm like, I wouldn't be able to have an orgasm if I was worrying about my abs or my boobs. Like, I can't, like, it's too many things in your brain, like you need to be just focused on what's going on. And so, I look at those that are struggling with that anxiety of like, oh, my body's not beautiful, or I didn't shave, or I didn't, like they get caught up in some of this stuff, or like, or are my labia weird? My labia are weird. No one's looking at your labia while they're having sex with you. They're not. They're
But
just
they
enjoying you.
have
And if
they
they're not,
there are people who
don't have
have
sex with them.
they are people who are having surgery
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
to
labiaplasty.
minimize the
Yeah, it makes me so sad. But I mean, look how prevalent boob jobs are, labiaplasty is, laser. I mean, just all these other types of things that people are doing to themselves because they have this mindset of like, I'm not enough, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I don't look good enough, I don't. And not to say, if you want bigger boobs, go for it. Have fun.
Yeah.
But don't feel like you have to have bigger boobs in order to enjoy sex and, and be able to be pretty enough for a partner, quote,
Mhm.
quote unquote. Because if your partner is really obsessive about that, and that is actually like, that's not a good partner to have. That's
No.
their problem, not yours.
How are all of these mental issues created? Is it because of porn? Is it because of some stereotypic? This is how you should look like. This is how orgasm looks like. You need to
I
scream
think
and da da da
so.
da da. Da. Is that?
I mean, don't you think? I just feel like we're surrounded by it. I feel like that's what we see in the media quite a bit. And what's funny too is, as I've talked to people, it's like they hang on to something that someone said one time or something they saw one time or something they heard, and they obsess and they build on that so and it's hard too because once again, like if you want to have bigger boobs because you're like, you know what, I would just love to have bigger boobs. Like, do it. It's not even that I have any issue with that. I don't think we should. It's the feeling like you have to, and that it somehow will
Mm.
complete you or fix you, or that's what's
Yeah.
devastating. It just breaks my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of, I always question. I mean, again, it's the same. If you feel good about your body, but you kind of want bigger boobs, and that's like a choice that you're making, or
Yeah,
whatever you choose to do, it is totally the source. It's what is
yeah,
driving that motivation. What is making
yep,
you make that decision? Is it actually you? And
yep,
Mm.
also, I often feel like when people, and this is very much my opinion, but I worry that when people get those sorts of procedures with which aren't needed for medical reasons. So if you've had there's an
yeah.
accident or something,
Plastic.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I worry that it's a bit like the whole everything we need is here.
Mhm.
Everything we all have, like Buddha, we all have internal peace, but it's about coming back to that and getting into that space through meditation or through some religions that can offer that, and spirituality, and
Mhm.
sort of that sort of sense. This is very much my opinion, but that sense of like coming back to yourself, and
Yeah.
doesn't matter
Being
what
at
you do
home.
externally. Yeah,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter what you do externally. That will never You'll never get there with that surgery. You'll won't That won't bring you, that won't actually have any. It might help temporarily, but I just worry it's sort of people chasing something which is they're never going to get, because
Mm.
that's not the
I
right way.
agree. Well, and I've lost weight, I've gained weight, I've changed shapes, I've changed sizes. It hasn't, it's still my body. I'm still in it. My
Mm.
my husband still loves me. You know, and even if he didn't, like, let's say he was totally out of the picture, I still love me. I still respect my body. I'm still at home in this. And what you're talking about really is body neutrality. That's what we're moving into, and that's what I love. I feel like body positivity is like, oh, I love all my flaws. Body neutrality is, I really don't necessarily care that much about them because this is my vehicle in my home to live this life. I'm just driving this car,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm going
Yeah.
to take whatever it is that I can get from this and just enjoy my beautiful life. And I love that we're starting to head even more in that direction because it does. I think that helps dismantle ableism, racism, homophobia, like all of these things that we're dealing with get dismantled when you start to embrace body neutrality instead of even just body positivity.
And also
That's really, I've not heard that term.
your I was thinking the other day, we are like the this at this very moment, we are at the best, at our best that we're gonna be.
Hmm.
As the time goes
Oh
by,
yeah,
I mean, and we
enjoy
don't realize
it.
exactly, exactly. It's just this. I feel, and I feel really sorry for the new generation. I just feel that all of these social media bombardment of this is how you should look like, this is what you should do, that's how big your butt should look like. All of this is
I
just
know.
breaking people's head, and
Yep.
I cannot think of my life if, like, if I was growing up with these constantly
I think
bombarding me.
what what I've seen, because I've got a young sister, and she's in that vein. You know, she's got her social media, and and also I've seen other teenagers grow up, like, you know, maybe 5 or 6 years older than her, and they've gone through all of it, and it's so tough. And the only thing that I can think of is to just try and show an alternative, because, like, I think we were talking to someone last night about how amazing it is when you see a woman who is just like strong,
Hmm.
and who is just like, and it's the way that you hold yourself, and
She's
that's so much more
embodied.
powerful. Yeah, it's just so much more powerful when you can see that, and I feel like that's the kind of role model, and it needs to somehow just like shatter
Yep.
all of the unachievable. There are filters now on Instagram where, like,
I know.
it makes your skin like
Yeah,
Plastic.
poreless.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh
I
my
yeah. And you're
know.
like,
god,
I
that's
and
know.
Photoshop on steroids.
yeah, and you're like, oh, that's not how I look like. So
Yeah.
why
It's
am I
I
taking
I
pictures like that?
when people meet me, they're like, "Whoa, you're tall and big."
What?
And I'm like, I know, like, obviously I try to post flattering pictures of myself as I post stuff, but I've even had people be like, I think I'm about the same size as you. I'm trying to buy Thinks panties and you look like maybe like a small medium. And I'm like, oh, so I'm a 2XL. But it's weird. Like some of the things that we've like put on people, I'm like, no, I'm actually a fully normal looking person when you meet me in real life. And at any given day, I'm here with my kids in sweats. Like it is. But we've set up a dream fantasy land on Instagram, and I even fight hard not to do that. And I still have ended up having people kind of put this on me almost because we're
Mm.
normalizing that. And it's weird. It's weird. And I don't quite know how to combat it without being obnoxious about being real. And so I'm like trying to find some sort of happy balance where it's just like, no, just like stretch marks, furriness, all the things, you know?
Oh my god, absolutely. No, I think I really love your page, because I just get the vibe so often that you're just like having a really good time,
Yeah,
which is
trying
just
to.
really.
You know, when I'm not
It's,
crying because our nation is burning down, it's fine. But that's good. That's really good.
well, you look happy.
Good.
Just
And I think
smile through it all.
this is what makes the work like more. This is what makes the work resonate with us. That you like it,
Mm,
Yeah.
and it's coming from your
yeah.
Oh,
heart.
I love
And
it.
yeah,
It's so important. Yes. And that's my frustration too, as I've looked at different platforms doing similar things. I never want to take anything too seriously. Because if we can't laugh about so much of this stuff, what are we doing? You know, why not have fun with it? Why not learn about our bodies in like a very straightforward and fun way? And because I'm
Yeah.
hoping that by building that environment, people will, you know, take that and build that same environment in their own homes, in their own conversations with their partners, with their kids, with their, you know, as they're trying to make this effort to learn and to do better with this.
Yeah. I mean, I think absolutely. I think also our bodies going on and off on that. Like your bodies, all of our bodies do very weird things sometimes. You
Oh yeah.
know, sometimes you have something you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, and you know, not even sexually, just like, what is that lump on my leg? And
Oh yeah.
oh, it's here today, gone tomorrow. What's going on? Like, our bodies do very strange things, and I think if you can laugh about it, obviously know the danger signs of something serious. But
Have
in
to.
general,
Hmm.
absolutely. So in terms of language, you're very direct with saying vagina in
Hmm.
your blog, the vagina blog, which I think is
Mm.
fantastic. Do you see that happening more around you as time goes on? Like sort of not it's not confrontational, but it is because people don't use it. But it's not really because it is just what it is.
Yeah. You know, it's tricky. I'm definitely in an echo chamber of other people doing so much of the same stuff that I do, right? So, of course, within my group, yeah, absolutely. Everyone's saying vulva and vagina and penis and, you know, all these things. Out in the real world, you know, as I'm watching my friends raising kids, I really do believe that we're doing a much better job being open. I live in a conservative area, and I would say all of my friends are having very real and open conversations with their kids. And even when I was working in birth and nursing my own kids, like breastfeeding, it was really exciting to see more and more of my friends being like, "I'm not bothering with a cover. I don't care. It's my boob, and I'm feeding a kid. Like, whatever, you know." And so even the straightforwardness, the brazenness of that, I'm seeing more and more of that, and that's really exciting.
That is really, really nice to hear. I think don't they sell like something specific to cover the baby and the boob or something?
Well, and that's
I think
so
there's
my
something.
kids hated being under
Oh,
that. My first I covered, I did the whole like nursing cover thing, and then by my second I was like, I don't care anymore. And what's really
yeah,
funny, when you get out the whole tent cover and you put it on and you do all the things, you are signaling to a whole whoever you're with that you are breastfeeding. And so people like act weird, right? If all you do is just wear an undershirt and an overshirt and you sneak your overshirt up and then attach your baby, it looks like they're sleeping in your arms. I can't tell you
yeah,
how many people have come up to me and been like, "Oh, can I hold your baby?" And I'm like, "Oh, they're actually eating right now." But no one treats me weird initially because they don't realize that they're nursing. And
yeah,
so it's so much easier for me that way, so much easier for the baby, and still no one really sees my nipples. Let's, you know,
no,
and so I'm ready to be done with so many of those things. Like it doesn't
yeah,
What's the
our
problem, like,
weirdness
of the
around nudity
label?
here in the US is weird. I'm done.
really,
We've sexualized all
Yeah,
of it. Nudity is
yeah.
not inherently sexual. It's as sexual as you make it.
yeah. I mean, do you have in how in what way is the nudity being sexualized? Do you mean like in like on TV, on screens and adverts, in like our the presentation online?
Everywhere. And I think in person, especially when it comes to something like breastfeeding, why in the world would it ever not be okay to just breastfeed in public?
No,
You're
I agree.
feeding your baby,
Who's
like
got the
you're
problem?
feeding.
It's
Yeah.
funny. It's like we've forgotten what we were actually born to do. I mean, in a very, very crass way, you know, we're born to have babies
Yeah,
and to grow them up and for them to have babies.
yeah. There's nothing crass about that. There's nothing wrong with that. It is the most fulfilling thing that I've done in my life. And we don't talk about it like that. And it's because we value male contributions to society over female ones because we're still living in patriarchal societies and cultures when it comes down to it. And I don't
Right.
say that because I hate men. I love them dearly. But our society caters to masculinity, it does not cater to femininity. And our contribution to society is beyond necessary. We wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
How does
I mean,
The
like,
anything
best
anybody else
there's
one.
that.
do hold a candle to us perpetuating the species?
I know, it's like, listen to me. I'm the future of the race, of everything.
We are.
All women are like, I am the incubator.
I'm making more people so that we can continue to have people. Oh, but you have a full-time job? Good for you.
You know what? My mum once said, she's like, when being pregnant, she's like, it was amazing because every day I had this great sense of satisfaction and joy because I was doing something amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I just felt I was just doing something incredible. And I was like, that sounds like an amazing 9 months. Tough next 18 years though. Is it worth it?
Absolutely. It is not as rosy as I would like it to
No.
be. But it's also the greatest thing I've done in my life. So.
Right. Oh, I know. But I love the idea that, we like, when you're pregnant, you are doing something amazing. Your body is performing a miracle. It is mind blowing. It's amazing. Anyway, do you want to ask any more questions?
Yes. So, shall I go to the standard Women Who Fight question?
Yeah, our final.
That's a typical question that everyone gets. So, April, what are you fighting for?
What am I fighting for, guys? So many things. No more faking orgasms. That's what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for informed consent and consent across the board and education. I think that's probably my biggest fights is we have a lot to fix. So that's what I'm fighting for.
That's very, very,
Yeah.
that's an amazing
On
fight
point.
for. Yeah. And I think so. It's sort of I feel like it's had its moment in the sun and then it sort of gets forgotten and then actually it's something that needs to be constantly we need to remind you about.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you guys. It was so fun. I could just sit and talk to you guys all day.
Tell me about it. I'm loving it so much. It's making me so happy.